Well, I never. You probably didn't expect me to upload today, but there's so much news that's gone on in the Championship, I felt I needed to make a quick video to address this. Won't be a long video since I'll be needed to help packing for holiday because I'm leaving tomorrow as of this video. So I'm going to be very busy, so this video is going to be short. There's a couple of talking points I want to discuss in this video today. The first one is Sheffield Wednesday's point deduction and the controversy behind it. But then we're going to have the return of the transfer show, but the managerial edition, because honestly there's so many managerial casualties. We've had a recent new manager enter a new vacancy. We've got 3 championship teams still without a manager, which literally could be anyone. Up to 10 manager names have been thrown in the pot between all 3 clubs, so it could literally be anyone. One of the series that will return when I come back from holiday will be the transfer show, but I'm doing this special episode today as the managerial edition. There have been a couple of great signings that I will address, like for instance with Millwall, Ryan Woods extending his loan I think is a good signing, and also getting Troy Parrott on loan as well. I think it's a good signing for Millwall. I also like Middlesbrough signing of Grant Hall at the back. It's clear that Liam Warnock's trying to shore up this defence, so that's really good as well. If you guys like what you see, want to see more Championship content, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. Good news for you, I finished all the videos that you're going to get in the next 2 weeks, so you're going to have plenty of content. If you can, please subscribe to the channel. You know, I've got this goal of getting 1,000 subscribers. If I do so, BenHD has agreed to do a collaboration, and to do this you need to subscribe, but you also need to share this channel and this video to other people watching, other championship YouTubers and all of that. Share it to football fans, share it to friends, do whatever you can. All of that would really make my day, and in no time we can probably get there. But please make sure we get it as soon as we can, because if it gets to 3 or 4 years without getting 1,000 subscribers, this deal's probably going to go off. But without any further ado, let's talk about the main talking points that went on in the Championship. So all of these events happened in a matter of days. We'll start with Sheffield Wednesday's case. They finally received their punishment. They're going to receive a 12-point deduction. Now the controversy behind it is that obviously it was delayed and adjourned to a hearing on June 2020. Now the reason why that's the case is that a couple of clubs have went forward and have accused them of an aggravated breach of the sale of Hillsborough. Now they've been fined for financial fair play. Now what happens is that during the sale of Hillsborough, this has been a 3-year thing. This has happened since 2015-16 and has happened since the 2018-19 season as well, eventually when they got caught doing it. The owner tried to layer some for funds and put it into another company. There are occasions where you can do that, but the reason is that for every championship club you've got to have a certain amount of loss each year, and the fact that he's not taking it and he's almost applying it to another company is parachuting his payment, and that is not allowed. That is the breach of the financial fair play. It's difficult to explain, and this is basically my basic description of what he's done here. But this has been a 3-year thing, and the reason why it's taken so long for the EFL to make a decision is that following reports, I think there's a couple of championship clubs who've accused Sheffield Wednesday of an aggravated breach. Now the difference is financial fair play fine and an aggravated breach fine are so different, because if Sheffield Wednesday, let's say, were found guilty of an aggravated breach, they would have a 21-point deduction. Now obviously the hearing couldn't go on straight away, you know, they needed to sort out the right cases for a court case, and it took till June 2020 to complete the conclusion that Sheffield Wednesday aren't guilty of aggravated breach, but they are guilty of financial fair play, so they'll receive a 12-point deduction at the start of the season. Now, when this happened, I was interested to see what Twitter were going to say. There was so many people upset with how Wigan received their 12-point deduction as quick as that, but Sheffield Wednesday took forever. Now the thing is, I know it's 12 points as well, but Wigan's case is a lot different to Sheffield Wednesday's case. Sheffield Wednesday's thing has been going on for quite a while. With Wigan, what happened where it was a bit of carelessness up top in the board level, and the change of ownership, you know, you couldn't anticipate COVID-19 breaking out, and administration happens is that if you can't necessarily deal with the funds, or if you're financially under pressure, so you need a bit of support to try and support some payments, and obviously the Wigan fan base did do that. So what a great fan base they were actually. And the thing is with Wigan, yes, they had it subject to an appeal, but with administration, you know, you don't need a lot of evidence to look in to see if you have been under administration. Sheffield Wednesday's case takes a lot of research and digging to see if they've actually been guilty or not, which is why their case has taken much longer. But obviously Wigan fans weren't happy, but to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about the Wigan fans in this case. I was thinking about the Charlton fans. Obviously, they finished in 22nd if Sheffield Wednesday had their points deduction on this season rather than next season, they would have been relegated and Charlton would have survived. And Charlton are understandably not happy about this and they're thinking of taking the case to court. It's a difficult one because obviously I think it would not have taken this long if the clubs hadn't stepped forward, if they had an aggravated breach. But the fact that they weren't guilty and they were pushed all this time, you know, that is why they'll challenge for it. And I do understand why. But knowing the EFL, I think they'll stick with their decision. And honestly, the EFL, even the Premier League, are the two probably the least popular footballing companies recently, following for what Premier League has done to Newcastle United's takeover. The next couple of days, even weeks, are going to be very interesting to see what comes around in Sheffield Wednesday. But the thing is, they've got a minus 12 points at the start of the season. Sheffield Wednesday are going to find it really, really tough. And thinking about it, last place last year was Hull City with 45 points. I've seen championship seasons when teams had to survive getting 45 points. If the standard of the bottom three is going to be as high as it was, Sheffield Wednesday need to get their foot on the gas as soon as the first game. They cannot afford to have a slow start to the season. If they do, I think Sheffield Wednesday will go down. A 12-point deduction is not easy to overturn. We saw it with Wigan, but how comfortable they looked. As soon as they got that 12-point deduction, bam, in 23rd. So Sheffield Wednesday are not going to find it easy next season. So now we've made it to the section where it's the transfer show, the managerial edition. Now, I made it clear in 2 videos ago that Paul Cook was leaving Wigan. That has now been confirmed. Paul Cook has now left Wigan. And unsurprisingly, he's already been linked with some managerial roles. But let me talk to you about what Paul Cook has done. Now, Paul Cook as a manager, I highly rate. Even back with Portsmouth and Chesterfield. With Chesterfield, he got them up into League One, getting them in a pretty safe position. Unfortunately, when Paul Cook left to join Portsmouth, Chesterfield just sunk like a stone. Right now, they've narrowly survived relegation to the league below the National League, so it was a real drop Chesterfield have had. He's joined Portsmouth, he got Portsmouth promoted from League 2, stopping their free fall, getting into League 1 to actually compete in League 1 as well. Then Wigan come around, recently relegated from the Championship. He takes that job on, and honestly, he's done an incredible job with the club. He really, really has. For the 3 years he's worked there, he's done an unbelievable job with Wigan Athletic. More news coming out of the Championship. Eddie Howe has left Bournemouth under mutual consent. Now, there's so many different reports that tell different stories about this. Some sources are saying that Eddie Howe's going to take a break, which I can understand. He's probably going to do what Mauricio Pochettino did after with how long he stayed with Spurs. Thing is with Eddie Howe, he's going to be such an icon at this club. He's taken them down from the brink of administration all the way up to the promised land to the Premier League in 2 managerial stints. You know, his efforts are absolutely unbelievable. Any other season, he probably would be manager of the year. He probably would be in contention of manager of the decade for how much he's managed to change Bournemouth. Now, there are quite a few clubs which I think could go for Eddie Howe. And for me, he has to manage in the Premier League. He's way too good for the Championship for me. Now, what Premier League club do I realistically see Eddie Howe going to? For me, as of now, 2 stick to mind. In fact, no, maybe 3. So I've got 2 to 3 in my mind. I'm going to give you the 2 most likely, and I'll give 1 anomaly. So, the 2 I think could go for Eddie Howe, West Ham and Newcastle. With West Ham, you don't know if they're going to continue with David Moyes. Obviously, he's had his second stint with West Ham now. In his first stint, they sacked him pretty quickly, and when they found a managerial appointment in Pellegrini, they thought they can't turn that down. Now, if they could easily do that again with Eddie Howe, and I actually think he'll be better than manager Pellegrini in a sense. Newcastle is interesting because you don't know how if Newcastle are going to stick with Steve Bruce. Obviously, the takeover could have a huge implication if Steve Bruce is going to stay on. We don't know what's going to go on. Mauricio Pochettino has been linked a couple of times to Newcastle, but following the takeover has now fallen. I'm not sure if he's going to join Newcastle now. So, yeah, Newcastle could be a potential one that could go for Eddie Howe. The other club is Burnley. Now, Eddie Howe's actually worked with Burnley before for 1 season, but he actually didn't do too well there. Didn't last a whole season. He managed Burnley when they were relegated from the Premier League, got them in a mid-table position. It wasn't good enough. Following some potential tensions with Sean Dyche not being backed up by the owners, they could go for Eddie Howe, but I don't know. Burnley would be in free fall if they get rid of Sean Dyche. That was a little bit less likely for me. Either way, we have to praise the work that Eddie Howe has done over the years. He does deserve a little bit of a break if he does have one. And hopefully he'll be in management soon because I do rate him as a top quality manager. Another bit of news, Aitor Karanka's back. He's now joined Birmingham City as their new manager. I did expect this to happen. Following reports of Aitor Karanka, I did expect this deal to go on. And finally, we're seeing some ambition in Birmingham's board. You know, I've been continuously criticising them of cutting managers short, not being ambitious in their choices, but they actually made an ambitious choice. But what's key, they have to give them a time. You know, even if it doesn't really work out in the first season, you know, let's say if they give Birmingham to 15th or something, do not sack Aitor Karanka, because it took him a bit of time to get things right with Middlesbrough. He didn't really get a lot of time in Nottingham Forest. He got a lot of expectation in Nottingham Forest. He got him around 10th place, but ideally with the squad they had, it should have been top 6. But I think with Birmingham, I think he can do wonders there. If he can get some signings that he's been linked with in the past, I think Birmingham could be a new rejuvenated side. I'm quite excited to see how he's going to work at Birmingham's manager. Obviously, he got Middlesbrough promoted, eventually gained enough time. So we have seen him promote teams out for Championship before. Birmingham fans may be a little bit excited about this appointment. Now at Bristol City's managerial odds, obviously Lee Johnson has been sacked quite a while ago, but there's quite a few managerial odds. Now I did previously say I think Chris Hughton may be the favourite, but I actually think Bournemouth are going to be more likely to get Chris Hughton now. Bournemouth's role, I think it's either going to be between Jason Tindall, their caretaker, Chris Hughton, Tony Pulis and potentially Nigel Pearson, I think, will be the names that Bournemouth will go for. Now for Bristol City, I think Paul Cook is now going to be the favourite to get Bristol City's managerial role. I can see him doing quite well at Bristol City actually. He's got a really attacking philosophy and I think he will suit Bristol City. I think what's key with Paul Cook though is to have this defensive resoluteness about them, and Wigan did have that in their last couple of games. If he can really drill that with that Bristol City team, Bristol City will be a much better Championship outlet for me. Of course there's going to be many names linked with the job, but for me I think Paul Cook is the more likely to get the Bristol City job now. Final thing to go through in this managerial edition of the Transfer Show, for Watford managerial odds. Now, of course, Nigel Pearson was controversially sacked 2 games before the end of Premier League season. Now relegated to the Championship, who could Watford go for? Now, I've quickly looked at the odds and they're quite surprising on the names I'm seeing linked, especially with the highest odds. One source actually has Gerard Struber as the highest odds. I cannot understand why personally. I can understand maybe probably because of his turnaround at Barnsley, but I can't see Barnsley letting this slide. That won't happen for me. The appointment that I think will happen is Luke Gotti. He is Udinese's caretaker manager, and if you don't know about the owners of Watford, they also own Udinese with Watford, and Udinese is a Serie A club that scrapes relegation as well. They actually did quite well this season actually, but there has been controversy that they've been looking more or less to Udinese more than Watford, and the fact that they've got such a cutthroat way of dealing with managers, they've been in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. They've got to make this managerial decision right and give him time. You know, don't sack him midway through the season. If they give him time and Watford can recover, then maybe Watford can make an immediate return to the Premier League. They definitely got the squad for it, but likewise with Bournemouth and Norwich, I think a lot of that squad is going to be snatched up by some Premier League clubs. That'll be something I'll be discussing after the holiday. That wraps it up for today's managerial edition of the Transfer Show. If I missed anyone out, please make sure you know in the comments down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys liked what you see, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel. We want to hit our target 1,000 subs so we can have this collaboration with BenHD as soon as we can. To help that, please subscribe, but also share this video and this channel to viewers that watch other Championship YouTubers and to football fans in general. All of that would really help the channel and me. If you guys want to have an update on how I'm doing, especially with my holiday, what I'm doing, etc., you can always follow me on my social media. My Twitter and my Instagram is in the description down below. You can follow either or, I'm not going to really mind. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care guys.